What is up? Welcome into this Thursday preview edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more.
Casual Thursday.
Yeah.
We both went with South Florida locations on our hat. I'm rocking the Boca hat. He's got the Lottie hat. Pretty lit. I mean, except for that Green Bay Packers vintage shirt, which I'll give you credit. It's a nice shirt. I can't stand the sentiment.
It's Abercrombie and Fitch, though, and after the lawsuit that went down yesterday.
Bad week for Abercrombie.
Yeah. Loser of the week, Abercrombie and Fitch. But we are winners of the week because we get to see a couple top 5 picks of quarterbacks return. The average height of NFL quarterbacks has taken a drastic hit this weekend as Tua Tagovailoa returned to practice, and Bryce Young gets named the starter after Andy Dalton has a car accident.
Yeah, you know what? There's a lot of these stories coming out this week. It's weird, and we hope Andy Dalton and his family are doing well. But what a stroke of bad luck! Obviously, getting into an accident, but you hurt. The only thing that you hurt is your throwing thumb. Bryce Young back out there for the Panthers. It'll be interesting to see which version of him we see. Are we going to see this young, confident kid that we saw in college that was a shoo-in to be the number 1 pick, or are we going to see a guy who sort of found himself tucked into his own little clamshell there for a few weeks and almost like a calendar year for the Panthers?
Yeah, he did not pick the best week to get forced back into the starting lineup, I'll say. He's going to Denver, already a tough place to play, and then facing one of the best defenses in the NFL so far this season, and the defense that blitzes more than anyone else in the NFL. So he'll be under fire, but I agree. I'm a little cautiously optimistic. I just hope we see a different guy, right? I hope we see a guy who's playing a lot more loose, a lot more free, because if there's anything we saw from him early on this season before he got benched, he was just playing so tight. You know, he wasn't taking chances with the football, wasn't operating the offense. He just looked lost. I mean, we discussed it at the time, but
he looks like me when I'm on the tee box and there's water in front of me.
That's a great way to put it.
And I'm like, dude, don't hit that water. Don't hit that water. Mike gets up. He's just like, watch me hit this 3-iron, and absolutely nuts one right down the middle. Next thing you know, he's got a par, and I'm picking up after double bogey. I haven't even reached the green yet. So you got to play with the right mindset, right? You got to play with the mindset of, I'm here for a reason. I'm Bryce Young. I was drafted as the number 1 pick. Mm-hmm. I still have to show people that I can do this thing.
And we shall see if he does. Honestly, like I said, I'm cautiously optimistic, but I think we can all agree that it's not going to be elite quarterback play anytime soon with him. But I think Tua is the more interesting one here, because as much as they have stunk, and we don't think this is a good team whatsoever, they are still ahead of the New York Jets in the AFC East. They are 2-4. Their season is not lost by any means. The defense hasn't been playing too bad. One of the better pass defenses in the NFL so far this season. So not all is doom and gloom in Miami. This season could get turned around. Now, it's obviously not 100% that he will play. He just has returned to practice. They're still ramping him up, seeing if he will be playing this Sunday. But obviously, with like concussion symptoms, if you're ready to practice, feels like something that you're probably ready to play with. But obviously, that's going to determine the next few days if you can. But going against Cardinals defense, that is one of the lesser defenses in the NFL, shall we say. I think Jonathan Gannon's a great DC. I think they bring a good game plan week in and week out, but we still saw Justin Herbert carve them up with some nobodies a week ago in terms of through the air. So a good team for him to return to, and another one that probably won't put much pressure on him when he does return. So what are our expectations?
350 yards last week for Justin Herbert with a bunch of receivers that aren't necessarily star-studded. Now you take your talents to South Beach. When you're this Cardinals defense, you're going to be playing against, it is in Miami, right? Yeah, it's in Miami. So you're playing against, I'm going to assume it's going to be Tua. I'm going to assume the involvement of Tyreek Hill is going to be plentiful. I'm sure the ball will be out of Tua's hand quick. I think Mike McDaniel will have a plan to do that, to get Tua back into a rhythm, getting rid of the football, taking no hits. That's really, at the end of the day, I think the last thing that Mike will say to Tua when he leaves the sideline for a last time before playing. Do not take any hits. You don't have to take hits. Get the ball into Tyreek's hand. Get the ball to Jalen. We've got some running backs you can get involved with this offense. And you know from years past that with Tua and Mike McDaniel, it's a lot of this quick processing, quick throws, and letting these receivers eat after the catch. I think that's where you're going to make a lot of hay. So look for Tyreek Hill to have another big day. I know these guys have been frustrated with their lack of offensive explosiveness.
Yeah, I think, though, this offense has had struggles even when Tua was in the lineup, right? Like, I don't think this is all of a sudden, like, you don't just score 70 points in 6 games with purely the talent, right? The talent's not that bad to be scoring with. I think Mike McDaniel himself has to go back to the drawing board with some of the stuff they've been doing offensively. And I don't think Tua is going to fix that, especially given what he went through, man. I mean, the fact that his career was in such jeopardy after that hit, and it was such a minor hit, I don't think he can just, we're talking about Bryce Young going out there and being able to just let it rip, play free, nothing to lose. There's a lot to lose for Tua at this point. I think you could see a guy playing very tight and not playing the quarterback position the way he did before, knowing that one hit, the one thing, when your first, second read's not always going to be there. Sometimes you're going to have to break the pocket. Sometimes you're going to have to extend plays. And will he be willing to? Will he be able to stand in there under pressure the way he has in the past? I don't know. I think that's a big question mark, because this really is kind of, I don't think anyone thinks that after another concussion, especially this soon after his last one, I don't think he'd play again.
Here's one thing you have to realize, and you know this from playing sports, and your old man's an ortho, right? So when you have an injury, like I had ankles, I had elbows, I had shoulders, I had a fractured vertebrae in my neck, you can feel those things, okay, when you're playing. Sometimes the ortho, the team docs will say, it can't get any worse. So it's a pain management thing. Like, I'm not sure exactly what Jaden Daniels is going through.
Risk of re-injury.
It's one of those things where if there's no risk of re-injury, it's pain tolerance, right? How much can you go out there and tolerate pain-wise? Like when I had my ankle, 80% of the game would feel good. Then I take on a bull rush and I try to sit into the ground and my ankle screams at me. Well, the head injury, the concussion, it's one of those things where you don't feel it. You don't feel it. And they tell you you're okay to play. So for Tua Tagovailoa, is he the type of guy that says, I don't feel it, I'm not even going to think about it? Or is it in the back of his mind every single time he touches the football? That's what remains to be seen. Which version of Tua we're going to see? Is he going to cut it loose, or is he going to be playing a little bit more timid? And I wouldn't blame him if he was to be playing timid. The guy has been kind of shell-shocked, so it'll be interesting to see.
All right, last thing to get to in first off the ball. Jameson Williams, suspended. We didn't get to this. This was a little bit earlier in the week for PESs. I think that's the politically correct term now. Performance-enhancing substances. Not performance-enhancing drugs is what the policy is now. 2 games, though.
Do we know which PES he was on?
It has not been reported anywhere.
Because there's a wide variety of things that you could be guilty.
Because it can be steroids, stimulants, growth hormones, and similar substances.
Yeah, I mean,
but usually it's 4 games, and this one's only 2.
Well, it could be very low something. It could be I took the wrong.
Could have been
thing.
Blue Chews.
Some of the I mean, 100%. Like I remember some of the old heads in the locker room when I got in the league. They were like, you got to be careful with the Viagras. And I'm like, I don't take Viagra. And they're like, oh, really? That's crazy.
Sure you don't.
Well, those guys would get in trouble if they got tested the day after from being on Viagra, because it's a stimulant. It falls under this PED, PES, also Adderall, Concerta, all those types of medications, which have become wildly popular in the general population, obviously for just getting stuff done around the house. Even, people are taking this stuff now. So if you're an NFL player, you have to be really careful about that. Jameson Williams obviously didn't understand what he was putting in his body. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. Maybe that's why they gave him 2 games instead of 4, but a huge loss for this football team. I'm
not sure you have to be careful about it, just as like a risk reward. If you are on your rookie contract compared to like your second contract, missing, say you're like a 3rd rounder. So your rookie contract, you miss 6 games, you're down, say $30,000. But what you could gain from the performance enhancing substances on your second contract.
You're actually taking it. So like what I'm saying is it could have been a mishap. He could have gone out to the nightclub or whatever. Somebody could have put something in his drink. Next thing you know, you're testing positive for the random drug test that happens the next week.
Oops, what Mike's saying is
the risk reward there in the rookie contract for a non-first round guy could end up being very lucrative. And you see some guys that end up getting in trouble later in their contract. And that's when people are like, hey, you're on the stuff. But if you can sneak by in that first deal, I'm not condoning this, but it's a savvy way to go about doing it.
It's why so many, it's like a common minor league thing. You take it in the minors to then get to the majors, because you get suspended in the minors. It's like, whatever.
Yeah. Nobody.
But now I have the base to be nasty in the pros. So I will say it is not going to probably impact them this week. They play the Tennessee Titans. They're at home, but they go to the road to the Green Bay Packers the week after that. massive game with obviously massive NFC North implications. The Packers only 2 losses, Lions with 1 loss, Vikings with 1 loss. So not great timing for them, I will say. But I don't think with this offense right now that I expect them to be taking a massive step back. But he was big. I mean, his deep threat ability is pretty elite at this point.
I mean,
all right.
He truly can take the top off the defense.
Sunday, the NFL on CBS features a slate of divisional matchups, including Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs putting their undefeated record on the line against the Raiders in Las Vegas.
Remember the Kermit doll this offseason? The Kermit the Frog, Patrick Mahomes hair thing at the Raiders practice facility? I didn't forget it. You think Patrick forgot? I don't think he did.
No chance. Now that is a CBS Sports Sunday. We'll get you set for kickoff beginning at noon Eastern with the NFL Today, Sunday on CBS, and streaming on Paramount Plus. Don't go anywhere. When we come back, we'll have a bunch of games to hit and go over our locks of the week as well.
It's a team almost too good to be true.
You guys ain't ready for us.
Kick your game day off right as the Tops team tackles all the biggest headlines around the league.
Who's got 2 thumbs and loves this next segment?
Sunday mornings on CBS Sports Network.
All right, let's look at our locks of the week from last week before we get to the games.
Jeez.
Bounce back week for your boy, 3-0 to go to 16-5 on the season. None of those were even actually the Tennessee Titans one was very much in doubt. The Indianapolis Colts one was very much in doubt. Had some lucky wins there, but 1-2 for you. The Carolina Washington one, tough. 40 points and you get an under.
I hate to see that.
That one. And then Godwin, right. He was close to it too.
He was right on the cusp.
Yeah. Unfortunate. Harry, the jinx, comes in 0-1 saying Jane Daniels anytime touchdown. So hopefully Harry doesn't pick your favorite quarterback this week or your favorite running back because that's not a great start. Let's get to the games, though, where we have the Minnesota Vikings at the Los Angeles Rams. Unfortunately, this was the only game. I'm just going to give a little preview. Usually I like to do my locks of the week. I like to do 1 over-under. I like to do 1 line. And I like to do 1 player prop for you guys. This was the only game I could find player props on FanDuel. So get with the FanDuel. There were not player props for the weekend games.
Figure it out.
We'll get to the Vikings Rams, where it's pretty lopsided. The Rams are only 3-point dogs, though, at home, despite, obviously, you see all the check marks there. Besides the quarterback position going the Vikings' way, head coaching one going the Vikings' way, too, because obviously I call that the coaching staff one, and no one is dialing it up better than the Vikings this season, although the Vikings defense, a little susceptible of late, the last 3 games, 31 points to the Lions, 17 to the Jets, 29 to the Packers. Has Brian Flores been figured out?
Those are some good groups. I'm not pressing the panic button on the Minnesota Vikings defense quite yet. I think they were just tested by some real formidable opponents there.
Good versus good sometimes.
GVG.
Sometimes the opposite wins. I will say, though, this Rams offensive line, not back to full strength yet. Still no Joe Noteboom coming back, although he's getting closer to playing. Sending out rookies on the interior now. Justin Dedich played last week. I don't think it's built. It's not an offensive line built to make me feel good about playing Vikings, even if Cooper Kupp will be coming back. But on the flip side, TJ Hawkinson may be playing this weekend as well. Yeah. He's getting closer to playing. So a lot of guys coming back in this one. What do we like?
I mean, I love the Vikings here. And to your point, Hawkinson coming back, and you saw a few weeks ago, Addison came back for this team and an offense that was complemented by a great defense. And offense continues to get a little bit better. And I think that throughout the course of the season, they'll continue to play well. And you talked about that matchup with the offensive line. It's not even the Los Angeles Ram offensive line versus the defensive front of the Minnesota Vikings. I think the real issue comes into the protection, the blitz pickup stuff. When you've got all these guys at the offensive line, you need to have that continuity with the O-line so you can understand how to communicate some of the things that you're going to see from B-Flow's defense. I think that's when they get into some trouble. Matt Stafford can't do all the traffic copping at the line of scrimmage because he's got enough stuff on the back end he's got to worry about with coverage and getting the side adjustments and getting his receivers on the right page. That offensive line versus that defensive front 7, not just the front 4. That's the matchup I'll be looking at. I think B-Flow and his group, they drive the Rams crazy this week.
I do too. And I like a few in this one. I love the I love the Vikings to cover. I like the under 48.5. And I like Cooper Kupp over 6.5 receptions because no one starts faster than the Minnesota Vikings this season. They are the ultimate first half team so far this season, even against the Lions. They sprinted out to a big lead there before giving it back up. When that's the case, the Rams and Matt Stafford love to just go dink and dunk, try to just let him. They will abandon the run game when that's the case, when they have to come back, and they will just let him just pepper Cooper Kupp.
Well, I heard Cooper Kupp talk about the first time that he threw with Matt Stafford, and he talked about how the ball didn't touch the ground in their 7-on-7 period. And he described it as long handoffs. When Matt Stafford drops back and throws an out route outside the numbers or to the hash, whether it has 10 yards of airtime or 25 yards of airtime, it's like a long handoff. You just know it's going to get there. And to your point, they can abandon that run game because Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp is an extension of their run game, essentially.
All right, let's get to the 1 p.m. slate on Sunday. Cardinals traveling to the Dolphins. Vegas is expecting Tua back because they're 3.5-point favorites in this one. And if you see the tail of the tape here, you can see why. I only gave the Cardinals the tick box on the quarterback position with Kyler Murray and the offensive line position with Paris Johnson and company being much improved this year. But receivers, backfield, D-line, linebackers, secondary, all going the Dolphins' way. I think one of my favorite bets in this one is actually the under on 46.5 points, even if Tua plays, because as I mentioned off the top, this offense wasn't on track even with them. They only scored 20 against the Jags defense that everyone and their mother has been rolling it up against. They only scored 10 against the Bills, and obviously Tua got hurt in that game, but he got hurt in the second half of that game and wasn't looking good.
No, that was an ugly game.
I think this Cardinals defense at least plays sound structural defense, and I think their secondary has been much improved. You have some budding stars there and guys like Garrett Williams playing the slot. So because of that, I expect a lower scoring game, but I still like the Cardinals.
I think that the onus is going to be on that Cardinals secondary, man. Tyreek's going to get the football. You have to stop these yards after catch, the runs after catch for this receiving core. When we think about Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, and these guys, we think about guys with elite level speed. They're going to run by people. I always talk about it's the threat of running by people that gets these DBs to backpedal. The ball gets caught underneath, and then it's a one-on-one in a hallway with Tyreek Hill and one of your defenders. You need to rally to the rock, get Tyreek down, allow Kyler Murray in this offense to control the pace of the game. I love James Conner. The way he runs the football is just a man possessed. Kyler Murray has been really good on the road. He's thrown a touchdown in each of his last 7 games. He's one of 4 quarterbacks in the National Football League to do that right now. I like Kyler Murray in this spot. Give me the Cardinals.
Ooh, yeah, I like Cardinals as well. I just think first game back to it, and even may not be him, right? He may not even play. Yep. And if that's the case, it's like I really like the Cardinals. I think baking that risk in that they could be starting Tim Boyle is very much worth taking the Cardinals at 3.5 points. Dogs in this one. All right, going to Jets, traveling to New England to face the Patriots. Jets 7-point favorites in this one. 41.5 points is the over-under. Some notable injuries, Michael Carter and DJ Reed, hopeful to be back this week. Didn't play a week ago. That was obviously massive for them against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Those are 2 awesome corners. I mean, these corners make this defense for a good part of it. They are probably the best trio of corners in the NFL. So having that back at full strength, going to be a test for Drake May and company. Rodgers, though, limited participant with, on the injury report, it said hamstring, knee, and ankles. It could have just read he's 40 years old.
Yeah, old as hell. That's what it should say.
The tail of the tape, one of the few tail of the tapes that I've seen this season where the Patriots don't actually get a single tick mark in this one. Jets get it every single one. Now they get a tie at head coach. They get a tie in the secondary. I'm obviously baking in Michael Carter and DJ Reed being potentially not playing with that. If those guys are healthy, though, shoot, the Jets are getting every single tick mark. That's why you get a 7-point road favorite.
I'm interested to see how this Patriots team finds a way to cover up Devontae Adams. Obviously, you know, from watching this Jets team play last game with Devontae in the building in that Jets uniform, they were going to try to find him early and often. Aaron and Devontae did try to connect. There was some disjointed efforts on their part in the passing game. So if I'm Christian Gonzalez in this New England Patriots secondary, I have to know where Devontae is on every play. Mm-hmm. And I do expect them to keep Christian Gonzalez on Devontae Adams, which leaves the onus on the other guys in that Jets lineup like Garrett Wilson to try and make hay. And after last week's drop that led to the interception, this is a huge week for for Garrett Wilson and Aaron Rodgers to get on the same page. That being said, I'm looking forward to this Patriots team responding after being called soft by their new head coach. I didn't like that at all. I'm sure they didn't like it. They're going to probably try to prove their toughness this week.
This is one of the few. I think this might be the first rematch of the season. I'm trying to think if there's been any others.
Gotcha.
Have there been any others? So they already played.
All of our division games are coming up.
Yeah, they've already played. The Jets won going away 24-3 the first time. But obviously that was with Jacoby Brissett and not Drake May. In that matchup, Christian Gonzalez shadowed Garrett Wilson. Now, stylistically, I think he's more of a Devontae Adams shadower, just from a size perspective. You have Marcus Jones then, or Jonathan Jones, to go handle Garrett Wilson.
A guy named Jonathan Jones.
Yeah, there we go. But I think they have the horses to do it.
Yep.
I think they can slow down this Jets offense. So I don't love betting the Jets in this one because I think it will be low scoring. But it's also like, I don't think it really depends on if this Jets secondary is at full strength. If you get Michael Carter and DJ Reed back, Drake May is going to be in a world of hurt.
It may not even matter, because we heard Gerard Mayo talk about his team can't stop the run. They can't run the football. They're a soft team. Well, you know what? Maybe they just go out and pound the rock against this Patriots team, and we get all these receivers involved in the blocking game. If your coach calls you soft, we're going to test that theory. You know what I'm saying? Run the football. If you do get into third and short, third and medium, that's when those matchups start to come in play with the secondary and those two receivers for the Jets.
I like the under in this one at 41.5.
I think I love the under. Bet. Also, Drake May, 50 for 78, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions on the year coming in. Number 3 pick. He's proven his worth. Patriots got a winner there.
They have not faced a defense like the Jets, though.
I like Drake.
Jaguars, Texans he's faced so far. We shall see how he fares. Look,
you can't complain about what he's done.
But, oh my gosh. I mean, from what he's done the first 2 games, I think it's why I like starting a guy early on. He just looks so much more comfortable. Just in his very first performance, the comfort level compared to even Jaden Daniels, his first performance, even Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, those guys week 1 did not look as good as Drake May did. What was that, week 6?
Week 6.
They didn't.
Yeah.
Well, it didn't. Now it's obviously it's 6 weeks in. Those guys now look comfortable. But I do think you gave him the ability to, when he was somewhat ready, to play behind a really, really bad offensive line that he's had to deal with. And man, he's dealt with it so well, in my opinion. So I still don't think he's faced a D-line that's quite like the Jets and what they can bring, especially from interior pressure. But
that's why
he was under heat. He was under heat against Texas and Jags.
Henry, Drake May stack. That's where it's at. That's my fantasy stack. If I had to pick a fantasy stack for the Patriots, knowing that pressure from the Jets front, you're going to be looking to get the ball out. Who's going to be close to the quarterback? That's all Hunter Henry, the tight end.
Yeah, Drake May now through 2 weeks under pressure, 37.5% of his snaps, despite a pretty swift 2.86 second time to throw on the season. All right, let's get to Eagles traveling to Cincinnati to face the Bengals. Bengals 2.5-point favorites in this one. 47.5 points is the over-under. Head coach, I call the wash. Quarterback, receivers, give me the Bengals, even if Eagles no slouch of receivers themselves, but Dallas Goedert may not play in this with a hamstring.
Yep.
Backfield, O-line, D-line, though, this is where the Eagles really separate themselves. Then linebackers and secondary, give me the Bengals, even if the Eagles secondary has been playing a lot better of late. Still like those two. A few notes in this one. 2 former Super Bowl losing quarterbacks. We now have 18 straight Super Bowl losing QBs who have never returned to the Super Bowl. Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts being among them. The Eagles have yet to score in the first quarter, though, this entire season. The slowest starters in the NFL. No Jordan Mailata, obviously, went on IR.
That's an indictment on coaching, by the way.
Yeah,
that's an indictment on coaching, all right? Because
I've been lamenting Kellen Moore all year.
This is a first 15 debacle, okay? The first 15. That's what we put in on Saturday, where we have our team meeting and then we break up into offense and defense, and the defensive guys, and they go talk about how they're going to stop all the threats on the offensive side of the ball. The offense, we are all handed a piece of paper, okay? And they say, do not lose this paper. This is the first 15 plays. Everybody gets it. You get your first 15. You say, I love this plan. There's passes in there. There's runs in there. There's a screen. There's situational plays in there. And that is Kellen Moore's best fit plays to score in the first quarter. And they haven't scored in the first quarter. It's an indictment on coaching. This team has scored second, third, and fourth quarters. They've found a way to be a productive offense. Then you need to hit the ground running in the National Football League. Can't play from behind.
Yeah, to just add to why I think that's like such an indictment on coaching. And I've gone week in and week out and just been like, I don't love Kellen Moore's game plans. It's just because that is you, your first 15 is you seeing what you've seen on tape all year long, kind of distilling it down to what we can attack from that, and then having the creativity to design stuff to attack it.
Yes.
And if you can't do that, If like that is the essence of offensive coordinating, is like just finding an answer for something that you can see evidently on tape.
You remember the game Counter-Strike on the computer?
Yeah.
So Counter-Strike, and there's probably not many Counter-Strike fans out there, but it's been around forever since we were little kids. It's essentially terrorists versus counter-terrorists. The counter-terrorists are trying to go defuse a bomb at the bomb site, and the terrorists are trying to make sure that it detonates. And essentially, you have a 30-round game, a 30-round match. And the first 15 rounds, you're kind of feeling out your opponent, figuring out what your strategy is going to be. Then whoever your in-game leader is, in this situation, it's Kellen Moore for the Philadelphia Eagles offense, is going to say, this is how they've defended it. This is what we're going to do. And good coaches find a way to find these seams in the defense and get into that bomb site. The Eagles offense has not been able to do that in the first quarter of the entire NFL season.
They're not even sniffing the bomb.
We're going into week 8 right now, man. You have an offense that is legit the cast of a Marvel movie, okay? Or whatever the Paramount adjacent is to a Marvel movie. That's what you've got there with the Philadelphia Eagles offense. You should be having a field day if you're Kellen Moore, but you're not. And here we are talking about some of the coaching issues.
I love when you break out the John Gruden man. Come on, man.
Come on, man. What are we doing, man? Do you like football? You like Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Jalen Hurts? You got big Lane Johnson at right tackle. I know Mailata's out for this group. He's on IR. Left tackle for the Bengals also out, Orlando Brown, but he could be back. He could be back. He gave a thumbs up, and he was like, I'm all right. So watch for that matchup. I look for Trey Hendrickson to take full advantage of that matchup on the left side of the field. So train your eyes on that left tackle spot for the Eagles. That's going to be a matchup that I think will determine the success of this offense.
I kind of like the under in this one. 47.5 points. I know the Bengals are built to play overs, but that matchup that you mentioned, Fred Johnson, Trey Hendrickson, and add that on top of the Eagles very much struggling so far this season, and the Bengals defense looking better once they got those DTs back. Right, once that D-line's at full, once the D-line's been at full strength, they've looked much better. So I like the Bengals. I like the under in that one.
You like the Bengals?
Yeah.
I think the Eagles win. I think that I think Joe Burrow has a great game.
Okay. And you like the over probably if you think it's.
I do.
All right. Packers, Jaguars traveling to Jacksonville. 4.5 point dogs at home. 48.5 points is the over under. Some notables. Likely no Cam Robinson for the second straight week, but as Pete Prisco mentioned earlier in the week, Walker Little, massive game last week, looked good. Massive for him. I wonder how it feels because he's in his fourth season. He was a second round pick, but never got to start because Cam Robinson, they drafted him, and Cam Robinson has always been there. So he started in spurts over the course of his career, but this is kind of like it. Like this is his trial to get a contract. I wonder how that must feel for a guy.
He was a third round or second round? Second round pick. So he gets a 3-year deal.
So no, he's on his fourth year.
So he's
going to
be a free agent.
So he's going to be a free agent after this year.
Good for Walker Little. I mean,
but he gets this debut. Like it must be.
You put it on tape. Somebody will come calling with a Brinks truck, buddy. Have a great game. I think this is a great opportunity against obviously one of the best teams in the National Football League. A lot of people are going to be watching this game. So if you're Walker Little, go continue to take advantage of it, man.
Yeah. Foye Oluokun, the linebacker, should be back. Designated return this week.
He tackles everything. If he sees motion, he tackles it. Tackles everything.
He does. All right, tail of the tape, though. Head coach going the Packers' way. Quarterback, I called it a wash between Trevor Lawrence and Jordan Love. People may offend some, but that's just where I'm at.
I'm a Bears fan, and that pisses me off.
Receivers, backfield, O-line, though, all going the Packers' way. D-line, I called a wash. Linebackers, I give to the Jaguars. Secondary, I gave to the Green Bay Packers. A note here, Jordan Love now has 9 straight games with multiple touchdown passes. Only the fourth quarterback in NFL history, 25 years or younger, to do that. Can you name the other 3?
Patrick Mahomes.
That's one.
No, not RG3. He had touchdowns with his legs.
Yes.
CJ Stroud.
Nope.
Give me the criteria.
25 or younger.
Yep.
9 straight games with multiple passing touchdowns. They're not recent. I'll give you a hint. They haven't played in over a decade, at least.
Peyton Manning.
Nope.
After his first year.
He's played actually within a decade of us. So
has it been it has been a decade. Who are they?
Dan Marino.
Okay.
Brett Favre.
There you go. Well, I mean, we always say Jordan Love is like, Brett Favre's cousin.
Yeah.
That'd be his nephew.
New age Brett Favre. I think the Packers just roll him. I'm just going to be honest.
This is one of my locks.
I think I know it's traveling to Jacksonville, but it's not like it's hot down here at this point in time. It's a nice, it's perfect weather actually down here now. And just this Jags secondary is not built for as many options as the Packers have. And they win with their defensive line when that defensive line can get home consistently. And no one's really been able to against this Green Bay Packers front. They've not really had any game where, they've given up pressure at times, but they've never been overmatched.
Yep.
Now, I do think Zach Tom at right tackle, Trayvon Walker's not a great matchup for him. He's a little shorter armed. He's a little lighter in the sand in the pants, as you will, to quote Mike Mayock there. And Trayvon Walker, those are the tackles he succeeds against. So that's one matchup that I think could go the Jags' way. But just as a whole, this Packers offensive line has been such a key to their success this year that I think they win that one.
Packers offensive line is really great. And I think Matt LaFleur does a great job of making it a priority to make Jordan Love feel comfortable in the pocket. And even when the matchups bode well for the offensive line, they still do a good job of keeping their tight end in to chip and get out, or having that running back come across the formation and evade that defensive end, these edge rushers, make them think that it's not only going to be two hands on you, and two hands, I mean a tackle. So it's a tackle and maybe a tight end, maybe a running back. And I also think they do a great job with their screen game as well. The interior three, talk about the Chiefs all the time in their screen game. The Packers interior three does a really good job of communicating who's out first, who's the rat killer, who's going to get the man defender. I like this Packers group a lot. Matt LaFleur coaches them very well.
Yeah, and especially with the way this Packers defense has been playing. So I think the Packers rolling, but I also like the under, 48.5. I like a lot of unders this week. We're going to get to somewhere I like the over, but that's one where I like the under.
And Tank Bigsby's been good for the Jaguars recently, but I don't think they're going to be able to rely on that run game because Jordan Love and this Packers team, they can score at will. That happens. You have to get into your passing bag there, Trevor Lawrence.
All right, Falcons travel. Oh, we're actually going to take a quick break. We've been going a little long here.
Okay.
I was almost gotten to I was getting a little excited.
Harry's getting us in trouble.
Harry's telling us we need to take a break.
Pump the brakes.
Take a quick break, and then we're going to get to that NFC South matchup.
If you love football, this is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets.
The stuff of absolute dreams.
Falcons traveling to Tampa Bay to face the Bucs. Bucs 2.5-point dogs at home. 45.5 points is the over/under. And man,
this still scares me.
I hate this for the Tampa Bay Bucs. This is why injuries suck in the NFL, because a week ago we would have been like, this matchup's going to be sick.
Game of the week.
Game of the week.
Especially with Jaden going to be out for the Commanders.
But Mike Evans, Chris Godwin out for the season. Evans gone through at least week 11 bye. Todd Bowles said this week. Bucky Irving may not even be playing with the toe injury.
Bucky swerving.
Sad. Very sad. It just takes the winds out of the sails of this one. And when you look at the tail of the tape, though, the Bucs still own the trenches in this matchup, in my opinion. Their O-line, D-line are running laps around the Falcons here. I gave the quarterback tick mark to the Bucs, but we shall see if that's the case when he doesn't have the receivers at his disposal and if he's throwing balls into coverage the way he was a week ago. But I gave the receivers in the backfield decidedly to the Falcons in this one, and the secondary as well to the Falcons. So if full strength, I think the Bucs are clearly the better team.
Yep.
But Mike Evans is so good.
It took a 500-yard performance by Kirk Cousins early in this season at home in prime time to beat this Buccaneers team.
It was fluky, to say that. I think we can all agree that.
Which is why we're going full Spooktober on this thing and saying we don't even want to touch this.
I don't want to touch it.
I wouldn't touch this game with a 10-foot pole.
I agree, because I do think the Bucs can still move it. I don't think that's their third, fourth, Trey Palmer, Jalen McMillan. Those are competent wide. Sterling Shepard. That's a competent. About as competent as you can be being on your third, fourth, and fifth wide receiver.
And you got Baker.
You can move the ball offensively, especially the way Liam Cohen's been dialing it up, especially when you have the offensive line that they do going up against this Falcons defensive line that really looks overmatched at this point. That's like one of the biggest mismatches in this game. So I think they'll still move the football, but it's just like, is Baker going to force stuff when he doesn't have his guys, or just throw things that he could throw to Mike Evans that he just can't throw to Jalen McMillan because he's 60 pounds lighter?
As scared as I am to get involved on the wagering on this game, I will say that there is, you mentioned it. We're getting to that point in the season where teams have seen teams before, right? So this is the second time these teams have played each other. And I think there really is something to be said, particularly for that receiving core who had such a great game against this Tampa secondary in Atlanta. They remember that. Guys like Darnell Mooney, who had a huge day or a huge night in the last time they played. And, Drake London, also a big contributor for this offense. The running game, all these guys have had good feelings about this matchup. They've seen the faces of these defenders before. Now they have an opportunity to do it in the daylight. It'll be a lot of fun. I think that stuff matters. I really do. When you get off the bus after having beat a team in the way that they did, it does matter.
If I had to pick one, I'd probably go the Falcons way, but I don't love.
I'll whisper Falcons.
All right, we whispered it. All right,
the Falcons will win this.
Let's get to the Ravens and Browns, where I don't think we have to whisper who's going to win this one, but I think there's some intriguing bet options still here. As the Browns, 9.5-point dogs, but they're at home, and they now upgraded at the quarterback position with Jameis Winston being named the starter, and maybe upgrading at one of the guard positions with Wyatt Teller being designated for return from IR this week.
Wyatt Teller
could be massive for them. But if you look at the tick marks in this one, Ravens offense just dominant, taking these home every single one in the tail of the tape. I like the Browns defense though. D-line, secondary, I think are much better than both the Ravens in that regard. I think they can slow down. Now, they've pretty much slowed down everyone they faced this season except for Jane Daniels and the Washington Commanders, except for the quarterback that can run. That's, most similar to Lamar Jackson in the NFL. So my play in this one, I like the over. I think the Browns offense gets on track with Chubb back, with Teller back, with Jameis at quarterback. They at least move the football, at least play a game that can score some points. And then we know about the Baltimore Ravens. They can score points on anybody. So because of that, I think my favorite bet is the over, 43.5 points. I think this one's going to be.
Just last week, tight end David Njoku had a career high in terms of receptions and yards. I think that his involvement's going to be huge with Jameis Winston. It's going to be a big spark. You talked about having Wyatt Teller back in there. I think their running game has a boost with Wyatt in there. It'll be interesting. But, it is the Baltimore Ravens, which is in a lot of people's minds the class of the NFL right now. So they're going to have to play their best game to even be in it. Maybe they get lucky. Maybe they can steal it. But I don't see it happening. I got the Ravens in this one.
I don't like betting either side because I do, like I said, I think the Browns actually score some points. We've talked about how the Ravens secondary is susceptible. Maybe down Marlon Humphrey in this game as well, even if Nate Wiggins, I didn't get saved. He dropped 2 more picks last week, killing me on that, on my defensive rookie of the year. That's 4 drop picks for him on the season now. Could be running away with it. But to put some numbers to this Ravens offense and how dominant they've been. First team in NFL history to average over 250 yards per game throwing and 200 yards per game rushing in any 7-game span. So not just first 7 games of the season, but any 7-game span.
Yep.
They're the first team to ever.
And they did it in the first.
And they did in the first 7 games. Derrick Henry has more touchdowns than the entire Browns offense this year. Just stupid stuff from the Baltimore Ravens this year offensively.
He probably has less body fat in terms of percentage than the Browns have put at quarterback this year. He's probably got like 2% body fat. They put out 3 quarterbacks. I'm just excited for Jameis Winston, man. Like, this is what
that was like a sports science stat.
This is what the people have wanted.
John Brinkus.
Yeah, John Brinkus. Shout out John Brinkus, standing in a garage somewhere, seeing how far Calvin Johnson can jump to catch a football. But at the end of the day, look, Jameis Winston gives you a huge boost. And if we were to look at this Cleveland Browns roster and their situation, if it was in a vacuum right now and Jameis was the starter and you knew nothing about Deshaun Watson and all the happenings, you would say this game's going to be tighter than if you had watched the Browns this season and said, this is the team that they've been playing like. But Jameis gives them such a huge boost. I think it'll be fun. These division rivalries, man, they're always things can happen. Stranger things have happened than this Browns team getting after this Ravens team. So I'm excited to see it.
All right, Colts traveling to Houston to face the Texans. Texans 5.5-point favorites, despite this one being a closer than that week 1 game. 46.5 points is the over-under. DeForest Buckner may be back after injuring his ankle all the way back in week 2, coming now off IR. He may be playing. That would be massive for the Colts because they'll need it with that defense. You see the tick marks going in this one, the tail of the tape. Head coach, these were the 2 favorites, in my opinion, for head coach of the year a year ago. 2 of the best rookie head coaches we saw, so I can't give it to either side. Quarterback, obviously, given to the Texans. Receivers, though, I'm giving to the Colts with Nico Collins still out. Backfield, calling it a wash if Jonathan Taylor is back in this one. O-line given to the Colts, but D-line given to the Texans. Linebackers, a wash. Secondary to the Texans. A lot of evenly matched stuff here. It's just, can Anthony Richardson actually show that up?
Yeah, if he can hit the free throws, if he can hit the layups, this team can be really dangerous. You talked about the check mark going to the Colts for receiver. I love this Colts receiver room. You got Pittman, Pierce, Downs. These guys can make plays all over the field in different styles. We saw Joe Flacco throw the moon ball to Michael Pittman on a prayer a couple weeks ago. He comes down with it. He's a guy that can win that type of stuff. Josh Downs, the ability to get outside the numbers and do these choice option routes and beat guys up at the point of attack. He's a lot of fun to watch.
Only Richardson will throw to him.
Alec Pierce is fun too. Well, I'm getting to my point here. My point is the Colts have a better chance if Joe Flacco's in at quarterback. I disagree having Anthony Richardson in there at quarterback, but that's a decision. I'm not the head coach. I'm not the OC. So it's going to be Anthony Richardson. They need to see him make good decisions with the football. We need to see him hit the layups.
Yeah, Anthony Richardson.
And CJ Stroud needs to have a better game than last week too.
So Josh Downs in the 3 games with Joe Flacco, 82 yards, 69 yards, 66 yards. This past week, 3 yards.
Come on, man. I mean, the proof is in the pudding there. You've got an offensive line that obviously they can run the football. If you have Anthony Richardson in there, you're going to want that offensive line to run it, your running back room to make hay, and Anthony Richardson make the defense pay when they do respect that running game. That's when Anthony Richardson comes into play. Joe Flacco, his offensive line, they have to sit up there and protect a long time. They've proven that they can do that with a 40-year-old quarterback back there. And Joe Flacco has proven that he can get the ball out on time and in rhythm with that receiving core. They're much more dangerous on offense with Flacco, but here we are with Richardson.
Here's the thing, though, and it's a difficult conversation because I think we all can objectively say the offense looked better with Joe Flacco. But this is not a Super Bowl caliber roster by any means.
So you're trying to get your team better for
you draft this guy 4th overall. He hasn't played a lot of football. I do think you give him a longer leash than you would say, a guy in year 3 who's still looking like this, or just like you give him a longer leash than a guy who's maybe, say, if Bo Nix looked like this next year, and we're having this conversation of the guy, his backup looks better. Say Zach Wilson looks better in Denver. Then I'm like, okay, Bo Nix has played a shit ton of football.
Yep.
Bo Nix has played more football than any college.
Anthony's been in and out more than
So
whatever.
I think it's a different conversation giving Richardson's history, but we've mentioned, I think, multiple times on the show this week, the Colts just have an absolute gauntlet of a schedule coming up.
Yeah.
That they will be dogs in like 5 straight games. That it does go south, and I'm thinking like south, where multiple games, probably let's say 3 straight games of him, sub 50 completion percentage, waving on throws left and right, scoring in the teens. This offense is too talented to score in the teens. When Joe Flacco comes in, they're dropping 37 on people.
Yep.
It's like
they're too good. Explosives.
I think at that point, it's very
catch.
valid to just say, hey, we're sitting you down and you got to go back to the drawing board with your footwork. You can't be doing Dan Orlovsky had a great tweet, if you want to go check it out, really highlighting some of the footwork issues from him that we saw even this past week, where it's just like, figure that the F out, and then come back to us next year, right?
Yep.
Like, come back to us when you got that, because you're so talented.
There's so many tools that we can use that Anthony Richardson has just naturally. He's just such a naturally gifted athlete. If you can turn him a little bit more into a quarterback, things can get so dangerous.
All that being said, I actually like the Colts in this one.
You know what? They've got DeForest Buckner back.
Yep.
Latu is going to be rushing the edge. He was dinged early on. So you got those 2 guys. Where are you going to respect that defensive front the most? Are you going to worry about the edges? Are you going to worry about the A and B gap? That's what remains to be seen for this Texans group, whose offensive line has struggled a little bit lately, right? I mean, CJ Stroud has looked less than comfortable and confident with that group in front of him. And we're going to see if this defensive front at nearly full strength is going to be enough to keep CJ Stroud at bay.
And they had Nico Collins last time. He went for 117, 6 catches.
Kind of a big deal.
No Nico Collins this time. So give me the Colts to cover at least.
What's the line?
Yeah, 5.5.
5.5. Give me the Texans.
Okay. All right.
If it was Joe Flacco, we'd be having a different story. I've said this every week.
All right, Titans traveling to Detroit, face the Lions. Levis a long shot to play, because that if he played, he would re-injure that shoulder in a heartbeat. Calvin Ridley also didn't practice yesterday with a foot. That to me speaks of like Rodney Dangerfield. Ooh, my arm. Ooh, my foot.
Respect.
I'm playing like shit.
No respect.
My foot. But in this one, you see the tick marks here. Every single one, except for defensive line, going the Lions' way. A wildly overmatched roster. But I do think with no Jameson Williams, this secondary, at least for the Tennessee Titans, can make some plays. Can disrupt some timing, shall we say, can actually like do some things against the Lions that maybe they don't get utterly boat raced. But I actually still think they cover because I don't think the Titans move the football.
I think that the Lions defense is the reason that
Yeah,
this
that's what I'm
Titans
saying.
team gets boat raced.
I
I
don't
think
think
it's
they move the
because
football.
they are a group looking to make turnovers on the back end. And you watch the way these guys fly around. Anzalone, Brian Branch last week, he got one called back. I think this group with Aiden Hutchinson out is thirsty to prove themselves to the nation to say, hey, you know what? I know that the top sack getter in the NFL is out, but we can still be a group that causes chaos and wreaks havoc on offenses. And for Tennessee, I know that they've been guilty of playing some hero ball on offense. Look for that hero ball to bite you in the butt. And as far as the Tennessee defense goes, let's find out how well those little guys want to tackle, because the Detroit offense, they will test your mettle, as it were.
Yeah, I like the Lions, honestly.
I love the Lions.
I like them to cover still. All right, on to the Saints. Chargers, last of the 1 p.m. slate. Chargers 7.5-point favorites. 39.5 points is the over-under because still no Derek Carr in this one. That means Ratty getting another start, his third of his career. The tick marks, though, I mean, at full strength, this is a legitimate matchup. I think I'd like the Saints straight up at full strength.
Yep.
I
With
think
all
they
their
were
offensive line.
the better team, but they're not even close to full strength. And at that point, Chargers D has been a house, man. They're just giving a lot of teams fits, going to keep you to a low-scoring game. But it's just not. It's just 7.5 points, man, with a Chargers team that doesn't score. Like they're not built to light it up. So I don't think I love either way. Even if I love the Chargers to win, I don't love either side here.
Things can go south for this New Orleans Saints group really quickly. And when you're playing against a group with some legitimate edge rushers here with the Chargers and a defensive coordinator that can dial stuff up to frustrate any quarterback, let alone a rookie quarterback who's, a fifth rounder for Spencer Rattler.
Fifth rounder.
There are plenty of speed bumps in the road ahead for this New Orleans Saints team against the Chargers group. And quite frankly, I love the Chargers in this one. I think that they can do things on the ground with that offense, with that offensive line. They can establish dominance at the line of scrimmage. And if Justin Herbert, if it's asked of him to go out there and throw the football around, albeit to not stars at the receiver position, he can give you huge volume. He can give you huge production. 350 yards last week for this Chargers team. And it's a group that we thought was a run first, maybe think about throwing the football team. Now we've seen that they can do either one. They can put their foot on the gas pedal in the passing or the running game. But it's that defense. Coach Minter, he's got them dialed in. And against a rookie on the road, I think it's tough sledding for that Saints group who is really hurting in terms
I'm
of
very
injuries.
interested to see what the Chargers do defensively, because they have, I think more so than any defense in the NFL this season, lived in too high. Like live. They don't run man, like cover one. They don't put that other guy down in the box. They don't run a ton of heavy boxes. They trust their front. They are
to
run
make
first
plays.
players. Trust those guys stop the run. But with New Orleans right now, it's like that's your only hope is Alvin Kamara, the running game. They're going to, and we've seen like the antidote to everyone playing the Saints this season since early on has been just load up those boxes.
Stop the run.
Just do whatever you can to stop that run, because it will basically because they're really going to struggle in obvious passing situations. You get them in a 3rd and long, you're getting pressure against them. So curious to see how that matchup goes. If the Chargers, possibly getting Cesar Ruiz back this week, that could be huge for them, being able to just run the football. So for all those reasons, I just think 7.5 is too much for me to go one way or the other.
I got Will Dissly having a huge game.
Yeah.
Big game. 8 catches, 7 catches, 92 yards.
You could make some cheddar on him if you bet.
7 catches, 92 yards, Will Dissly.
All right. Let's get to the 4 p.m. slate. Buffalo Bills traveling to Seattle, face the Seahawks. Seahawks 3-point dogs at home. 47.5 points is the over-under.
This one scares me too.
This one is crazy because the Seahawks, they were on last week against the Falcons. They're 4th string right tackle.
Yep.
And he's back this week. Stone Forsythe's now on IR. Mike Jarrell, a 6th-round rookie from D3 Findlay, which is in Ohio. And he's listed at 294 pounds.
294. He's going to be quick enough.
He can move. He's quick. That's why they drafted him. That's why he got
I
drafted.
think I'm 294.
I don't think he's ready, though. He was getting bull rushed by Falcons defenders that are not what he's going to be seeing.
Well, he's going to be at home, which will be nice.
Helps with
okay.
snap out.
I'll tell you what, when you're on the road and you play in these indoor stadiums, like you go to the Mercedes, that's what Atlanta is, Mercedes-Benz. You go to Mercedes-Benz and you're playing on a track type surface there with their turf, and you got the crowd noise, and it's your first couple snaps, and you're from Findlay University in Ohio, and your head is freaking spinning. Well, now you get an opportunity to come home. I'm sure he had a great week of practice. He got a little bit more comfortable, and he probably talked to Stone Forsythe a little bit, got him to calm down. I expect him to have a better week this week, but at the end of the day, I don't want to touch this game at all because the Seahawks just went and embarrassed the Falcons in Atlanta. Now they get a chance to come back home. It's a long, long way for this Buffalo team to travel west. I still like the Bills, though.
I agree about not testing game because the Seahawks defense now back at full strength, right? And I think, similar to what we said about
you got
the Bengals,
Byron back last
where
week.
it's just like when you have that full complement of defensive linemen at your disposal that they have, because they don't have maybe like any game changers, but they have about 6 deep that are like
solid
quality. And when you have that intact, it looks great. But once you have to get to D-line number 7, D-line number 8, and those guys are now playing their starting snaps. Yes, it kind of takes the shine off. But against this Buffalo Bills team, I think you have to be able to stop that run first, because they've proven over the course of the year, if they feel like they've overmatched you on your defensive line, they're willing to pound the rock. I think Joe Brady's been awesome.
They'll bring the 6th lineman in.
Yes.
They'll have 2 tight ends in, and Cromer's just going to be like, just pound the rock, until they stop you. We're going to stay in it.
He's been tremendous about adding balance to the force that is the Bills offense. So I don't think I kind of like the Seahawks. I think if they can just, and when and I've lamented Brian Grubb for not scheming around the fact that his right tackle has been a 3rd stringer all year. But now that it's a 4th stringer, I trust that he's going to say, I'm not going to let this guy block Von Miller.
Yeah.
Right? I think he's going to learn. I think he's knows at this point that every single time he's just going to have to get chipped. Every single time. Just, that's fine. Scheme it up that way. So I kind of like the Seahawks because
there's no easy option there for edge rushers against the Bills. It's kind of like pick your poison. Which one of these guys do you want to help with? Yeah.
And it's whoever's rushing over Mike Jarrell this upcoming week. So because of that, I think I like the Seahawks. Dogs at home?
Give me the Bills.
Give me the dog at home.
Give me the Bills. Josh Allen.
All right. On to one of the least anticipated games of the weekend. The Chicago Bears traveling to Washington to face the Commanders. Are you going to this one?
I am not going to this one.
Oh, boo.
I don't know if Jaden's playing or not.
Yeah, that's actually a good point, because we don't know, because he did not practice yesterday. And because of that, the Commanders are dogs at home, even though I already took that one. 43.5 points is the over-under.
Commanders?
Yeah, took the Commanders.
Oh, my God.
And if Jay Daniels does play, this will be only the second matchup in NFL history between rookie quarterbacks who are both 2+ games over 500. Can you name the last one? I'll give you the year. It's 2016.
2 rookie quarterbacks.
Both 2+ games over 500 when they're meeting.
Was Jared Goff a rookie in 2015?
He was a rookie in 2016. Yeah. This year. It was that year.
So he is on the list?
It wasn't him, though.
Was Lamar Jackson on the list?
Nope. That was 2018.
I do have CTE.
Who was after Jared Goff? Who was number 2 of that draft?
I don't know.
Carson Wentz against.
God, you know what? It's been so long since I've seen Carson Wentz play that I just deleted him from my Rolodex.
Yeah, right. Carson Wentz against Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott. He was so much fun to watch in college. I still love Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
Can't stand the Cowboys.
The team
love Dak Prescott.
won the tank. All right. This one.
I still think about Carson Wentz working out at that public park in like 3 different teams. Team issued gear. He's got like a practice jersey from the Commanders. He's got a helmet from the Eagles.
Basically, he wanted everyone to know he played in the NFL.
He's like, I played on a lot of teams.
Yeah.
Sign me, guys.
You guys,
Bueller.
But the biggest one, this one, obviously, Commanders, they get tick marks offensively for the most part, outside receiver. I called the O-line tie. But then defense, all going Chicago's way. This is the test, right? We talked about it on Tuesday in the Power Rankings show. The Bears have not seen a test and passed it of like a real playoff team. This is a real playoff team. Now, obviously, Jaden Daniels versus Marcus Mariota is a big drop-off, but we saw Mariota
looked pretty damn
they still
good
have,
last week.
Exactly. They still have weapons at their disposal offensively. So Where do you see this one going?
I think with Marcus Mariota that Cliff Kingsbury, because I protected for Marcus at Oregon, and until I went to Kansas City and played with Mahomes, I would say that Marcus is the perfect kind of quarterback because he's accurate with the football. He has the mobility, at least coming out. He had the mobility. He was accurate with the football. He was respected by his peers like none other, and he prepared like nobody's business. So when I saw Marcus go out there for Cliff Kingsbury last week and have a really good week, it kind of worries me a little bit going into this game because I've seen what Mariota can do to defenses. But then again, you give all the check marks to that Chicago Bears defense. Even more than that secondary is really, really good. And I think about Jalen Johnson. I think about Tyreek Stevenson. The back end, Kevin Byard has been great for this group. So they've got eyes everywhere that know exactly what to look for. They've got the skills enough to take it away. I know the gripe about this Washington offense has been it's a first read quarterbacked offense. So look for Chicago to try to take away that first read. They like to use the right side of the field for the Commanders. I expect it to be a really good football game, but I do think that the Chicago Bears roll. I think Caleb has been thinking about this one for a long time, obviously, ever since Jaden Daniels and his Commanders team started going boop, 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 up the ranks in offense. Caleb has had something to prove. He's been better every week. I expect them to go on the road and get after that Commanders team. My guy, London Fletcher, former colleague, CBS Sports, he'll be on the call for the Commanders. Hopefully he's singing the praises of the Bears all Sunday, baby.
I like the Commanders.
I know you do.
If Jaden plays. If he doesn't, obviously more of a toss-up.
We're really robbed of a
It would stink if he doesn't.
ESPN Classic.
Yes.
As it were. CPS Classic.
But I think the Bears O-line better be on their P's and Q's. Dan Quinn's going to be bringing blitz packages. Yep. You're going to see Frankie Louvu coming.
That's what I'm talking about on Sunday is that double A gap package with him and what's the other guy's name? Bobby Wagner. So it's Bobby Wagner, Frankie Louvu in the double A gap, working off of, the point system. Whoever gets pointed, the other guy's going to go. They can switch that out throughout the game. I like what they do with the center picks with the linebacking crew. Those are big dudes. It's not just linebackers. Those end up becoming known rushers in your pass rush game. So look for the Chicago Bears to have to be on their P's and Q's pre-snap. That's going to be the chess match. It's Caleb versus Frankie and Bobby all day.
All right, on to the Panthers at Broncos. Patrick Surtain back practicing in full. Bryce Young starting this week. Broncos 8.5-point favorites. 41.5 points is the over-under. Tail of the tape says a lot of things go in the Broncos' way, as is usually the case when someone plays the Carolina Panthers. But I did give the Panthers the receiver tick mark in this one. O-line I called a wash. I love the Broncos in the under. And I actually got it when it was 43.5 before it was Bryce Young named the starter. And now it's 41.5, and I still love the under.
I'm about to text my wife and say, put our house on the Broncos.
On the Broncos in the under. Yeah, hey, we saw Bryce Young, right? It was one of the worst quarterbacks in NFL history, unfortunately, through this first 18 games. So have things changed?
Who is the worst quarterback in NFL history?
I mean, Jamarcus Russell was up there. Nathan Peterman was up there.
Well, relative to their draft stock.
Jamarcus Russell probably was like the biggest bust.
Overall ever.
Yeah. In terms of just like how he played versus where he was drafted.
But what about guys that were maybe free agents that were just, like
stunk.
Never completed a pass.
No, that's a good. Like I said, Nathan Peterman had that one game where he threw 6 picks.
I feel so bad that we've said Nathan Peterman's name 3 times in this segment.
I'm trying to think who else was like really, who got thrown in. Arizona threw some stinky QBs.
I mean, Mohamed Sanu was better than like 30% of quarterbacks that have ever been in the
John
league.
Skelton was like Ryan Lindley. I don't know. They threw some.
But this week, we get the Carolina Panthers. We get Bryce Young going to Denver. You know what? I don't expect the Panthers to win at all. But what I am looking forward to seeing is Bryce Young's demeanor. Upon receiving the snap, is he going through his progressions or is he bailing on the play after the first read? I know this PTSD stuff is real as it pertains to quarterbacks when you've been just clobbered in the pocket time and time again. And when you think guys aren't coming free and you obviously read all the articles, you hear all the noise from the outside, you can put on your earmuffs all you want. But if you're Bryce Young, you've heard it. You've heard the noise. So I give him I want to send him good energy going into this game against Denver. I don't think you guys are going to win the game, but go prove some people wrong, man. Go battle, play with some salt, play with some shit to you, son. I think you're going to be just fine.
The other big thing, like why I love the Broncos at that number is the Panthers defense. I mean, like we could say all like Bryce and how bad he's been. And like, even if he plays well, even if he comes back and like goes for 250
Can't keep up with
and
the
looks
other
like
group.
he can hold up, the Panthers have one of the worst run defenses in like modern NFL history. You know, like, they can't stop a nosebleed on that side of the ball. And the Broncos have just shown, hey, we'll just run the ball. We'll tote the rock the past few weeks.
Javonte Williams and Bo Nix in the first half. They were like 120, 130 yards last week.
So yeah, we'll ride with the Broncos.
And with McGlinchey back in the lineup, they're just like, hey, Notre Dame, hey, Harry Heastand disciple, just get down there and move some guys off the line of scrimmage.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, we got 3 more to go. Last 4 p.m., Sunday Night Football, and then Monday Night Football, and then our locks of the week.
Boise State battles for the top of the Mountain West as they enter Rebel territory on CBS Sports Network.
Roll on highway, roll on home. That one's for Chris. We always used to sing that song when we come out of breaks. I don't know why, but it's a good song.
I don't know that song.
I can't sing much more of it because I don't want to be sued.
Oh, okay. There we go. All right, Chiefs traveling to Las Vegas to face the Raiders. Raiders 9.5-point home dogs out.
I can't wait for this one.
41.5 points is the over-under. No AOC. He goes on IR with a thumb injury. Patrick Mahomes, though, against the AFC West on the road is 18-1 in his career. 5-0 at Allegiant Stadium in his career. Not a lot of tick marks going the Raiders' way, unfortunately. They only get the receivers tick mark. Everything else, Chiefs just overmatched. They got the quarterback. They got the head coach. They got momentum, if that's a thing. I don't know. There's just not a lot of reasons to like the Raiders in this one, unfortunately. So go off, Kyle. What are you going to say?
Right now, I'm looking at the Chiefs in the top left, and my brain is not computing it. Is it I before E except after C? So would it be CHIEFS? I never know. You know what? First time I signed with the Chiefs, I was writing like Kyle Long, Kansas City Chiefs at the top of my notes, and I couldn't spell Chiefs.
So it's not directly after the C,
but somewhere after the C.
But no, so it's I before E except after C.
Yeah.
So that's not an after C, that's an after an H.
Thank
so
you.
it's an IE.
So now that we got that out of the way, by the way, this is the way my brain works. I'm like, that doesn't make sense to me. So this offseason, we saw the Raiders during their offseason program do, these social media groups. They try to one-up each other, outdo each other, to try to embarrass some of the other teams. There's a lot of groups that do it really well. The Chargers are great at social media. A few of these teams around the league really good at it. The Raiders tried to do it. You know what they did? They put a Patrick Mahomes themed Kermit doll toy at the sideline of their practice facility, and they were all like talking shit to it this offseason and making fun of its voice.
Let's poke the grizzly bear.
Why? What are you doing? You got to go play the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs this week, who definitely saw the video. Patrick Mahomes 100% saw it. He was pissed. He may have laughed it off. Yuck, 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 yuck. Patrick does the thing. Everybody's going to talk shit about the best, right? These guys don't like that stuff at all. Okay. I expect this team, who got beat by the Raiders last year, to go and embarrass the Las Vegas Raiders. And it's not just we're going to beat up on our divisional rivalry. We want to show you how much more dominant we are than you. And we know that we've got some issues on the offensive side of the ball, but I expect them to score a ton of points. I expect Andy Reid, like Dan Campbell, going down to Mike McCarthyville in Dallas to pour it on this team. I really do. I expect the trick plays in the red area, the goal line trick plays, I expect it all to be in this week. This is where you try your stuff against the Las Vegas Raiders. Give me the Chiefs in this one. Man, oh man. And DeAndre Hopkins, how much of him are we going to see? Is he even available to play this week?
He actually came over with a hamstring that he was hampering, so may not be completely up to speed.
Not the Devontae Adams hamstring?
Maybe like an Amari Cooper sort of.
Not the Devontae hamstring, though.
Not the Devontae.
Which looks
the magic hamstring. Honestly, I get all of that. I kind of like the Raiders, though.
I know
9.5 points is a ton, is why.
You woke
They're
up
at
and
home.
you ate your crack pipe this morning.
Their defense can match up, I think, well with this Kansas City Chiefs offense. It's just like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs offense over the course of the past handful of weeks. Like, it's just one DeAndre Hopkins does not this offense fix, is my thing.
You're right.
So I think it'll be lower scoring.
Chiefs are going to suffocate the offense. They're going to have more than enough possessions.
Like, the Chiefs
to score
could dominate
35 points
and win by 8. Is what my thing. They could truly own this game and still come away and not cover the spread. I
just want to see this Chiefs team embarrass this Raiders group. I want to find out who was in those videos. I want to get on their heads. If I was on that team, I would have done my research. I would find out who these guys are. I'd be like, we got to get them. And I'm going to show Patrick. I'm going to bring some of their hair back. I used to come back to the huddle with some dreadlocks or something. And I'd be like, look what I got. You know what I mean? Like, this is 56s.
Every time guys had dreads hanging out the back, like truly like grabbable.
Yeah.
I was like,
I accidentally grabbed them sometimes, but once I grabbed onto something, I wasn't letting go. So it was usually coming with me. I have brought dreads back to the huddle and been like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, you're playing a dangerous game once you have it hanging out.
Hey, that's why I shaved my head. You can't grab it. Okay.
You get the beard. All right. On to the Cowboys at 49ers. Cowboys coming off a bye that was much needed, but Micah Parsons still may not be playing because he was not practicing yesterday. 49ers 4.5-point favorites. 45.5 points is the over-under. But from the 49er side, Debo, illness, still not practicing. Juwan Jennings, still not practicing. George Kittle did not practice.
How long does pneumonia take?
Brandon Ayuk out for the season. Now, I gave the Cowboys only the quarterback tick mark, but receivers is a conversation, obviously, if those guys don't play. Illness, though, I think we expect Debo Samuel to be better by Sunday. Kittle, we expect to play. So I still gave that one to the 49ers. 49ers are the much better team. This is one where I actually love the over because Cowboys run defense, we all know. I think the 49ers just roll them on the ground.
Yep.
And when you're rolling on the ground the way the 49ers can, that's when the offense, that's when like Brock's not under pressure, right? That's when he's the play action. That's when he looks at his best,
looks
obviously.
Goff-esque.
So I just think we just put numbers up on the scoreboard in this game.
Trent Williams punched a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Cook, I believe. Punched Brian Cook in the game last week. Is he out for this game?
That's a good question.
Because when I was playing, I always used to like to rough some guys up after plays. I tried not to punch guys in the back of the head when they weren't looking, but the refs were always like, be careful, you'll miss next week too.
Mm-hmm.
I just, Trent Williams punched a guy. Is he going to miss this week?
It was just the ejection was enough, apparently. I don't see anything about suspension.
I'm not saying I don't want to see Trent Williams on the field. I'm just saying for the quality of the run game. Obviously we love Dominic Puny. We love this group with the Niners. We love their willingness to run the football. I know you gave the check mark to Dak Prescott, but I'd push back on you a little bit there.
Oh,
would push back on you a little bit.
Dak.
I love Brock Purdy. I'm a big Brock Purdy guy. I think not only has he done a really good job of attacking down the football field, and the numbers indicate that, but I think that his legs have given him another level of threat to defenses when he's in or around that red area. I know they've had some red zone struggles, so it could come down to Brock Purdy making some plays with his legs. We saw Patrick Mahomes last week on 4th and goal from the 1-yard line with one of the best red zone offenses that ever was created in Andy Reid's Chiefs unit. And it was Patrick Mahomes that had to run over a second-level defender to get in. That's why I think Brock Purdy gets the edge there. I think he has been really good with his legs this year.
All right. You got 49ers winning?
I do have the 49ers winning.
Yeah, I think they're running away with this one, honestly, and I like the over as well. All right, last game, Giants, Steelers, Monday Night Football.
This is going to be fun.
Steelers 6.5-point faves with a 36.5-point over-under. No Zach Frazier yet again for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but it didn't really worry them that much last week, but they got Dexter Lawrence coming to town.
Yep.
I think it's going to worry them this week. So tail of the tape says a lot of these go in the Steelers' way. Quarterback, backfield, linebacker, secondary. But the receivers I got going the Giants' way at full strength. O-line, D-line, I called a wash for both. Both suspect O-lines at this point, but both dominant D-lines. That's a recipe for, well, a 36.5-point over-under. I don't love the Steelers 6.5 points in this one. I'm not sure. I just think the offense we saw last week, 37 points, whatever.
So 50.
I think it comes back down to earth in a big way. And I think you may even see some turnovers from Russell Wilson this week that you didn't see last week because of that. And probably it takes a few more sacks than he did against the New York Jets.
Well, they're definitely not going to have one guy on Pickens there. There's going to be a guy on top of Pickens and a guy underneath of Pickens. Russell's going to have to put the ball in there. But I think what we saw from Russell Wilson last week and a lot of people that were leaning Justin Fields' way was that if the play breaks down in terms of progression, there's nobody open. We like Justin Fields because he can have the ability to get out there and run and make things happen with his legs. We saw Russell Wilson look pretty mobile last week, okay? Mm-hmm. The issue came early in the game when he was rolling right, throwing left, throwing the ball into the dirt. I don't anticipate that happening again this week. I think we will see an offense that takes advantage of him getting to the edges of the defense. You talked about Dexter Lawrence being in the lineup for this Giants group. Nobody knows that more than Arthur Smith, okay? He's going to try to keep his 36-year-old quarterback away from the man-eater in the middle of the field. You will see a lot of the naked stuff. You'll see a lot of those deep crossers from left to right with that Steelers group in the second.
Yeah, I do think that they're just not going to drop back pass. They're
going to be moving. They're going to try to run. It'll be, hey, Dexter, either you're playing the run or you are running to go get the passer.
From the Giants' perspective, I don't know how they block both Alex Highsmith and TJ Watt.
Yep.
You're going to have to double chip every single play.
Highsmith is an animal. And if he didn't play across from TJ Watt, he would be a household name. That's what I truly believe.
Great call. Yeah, I just don't like either side in that one, honestly. But I think the Steelers end up winning.
I think the Steelers win. I think they put it away with the run game in the second half.
All right, let's get to our locks, and let's get the heck out of here.
Yep.
Mine this week, we're going to start off with Thursday Night Football. Vikings -3 against the Rams. Or I guess it's 2.5 now. Heck yeah. Let's get it. Give me that hook. Carolina, Denver under 41.5 points. Yeah, love that one. Arizona, Miami under as well. Even if Tua plays 46.5 points, give me the under.
Yeah, I've got Green Bay -4.5 against the Jacksonville Jaggies. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs -9.5 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. And then the Detroit Lions -10.5. I think it's against the Titans. It is against the Titans. 10.5. I don't care who they're playing. Give me the Detroit Lions -10.5.
At home. And then Harry, cursing Aaron Jones this week. Over 68.5 rushing yards for the Vikings back going against the Rams on Thursday Night Football. I already did that one, though. I already called out Aaron Jones in an over-under, and then he got hurt for me. So maybe that's the double jinx. Maybe you can't jinx him any more than that. I like Cubs over.
And what was my tight end? Will Disley?
Will Disley.
Career
game.
Look for the over.
Just do a alt line. Go alt line 90 yards. And
you can make some money.
Don't even offer that.
You can make some money. Send me some
like
zins.
A 10x.
Send me some zins.
All right. We'll be back on Monday running you guys through a recap of all the games that were.
Really quick before we go, what are you wearing for Halloween?
Oh, dude, I haven't even thought about it. Halloween's next weekend.
I'm a pirate.
Are you going to Halloween parties this weekend?
Yeah, I'm looking for pirate's booty.
Oh. On that note, we'll be back Monday. Until then, keep pushing.
Peace.